Hi, this is BK Black Krishna from manforwars.com, where I'm promoting polite patriotism to help nice ladies and gents teach kids, look, talk, and feel great, and locally discuss and share great online info offline as nice, helpful, respectful people making more and making a better place to live. These days, a lot of people watch YouTube videos, podcasts, and so on, and prefer to do that with people who have self-respect and who respect you than talk to each other because of that lack of respect. And so at manforwars.com, I'm documenting that and finding ways to deal with that, so check that out as you'd like. But this video is called 2019 NBA Playoffs, Raptors versus Sixers Round 1 Preview, Who to Play and How to Win. And as a Toronto boy, Toronto Raptors fan, I've been following the team for a little while. Lots and lots of things to say about them. One of the best teams in the NBA. Hell of a lot of fun to cheer for. And recently, after the Orlando Magic, after the Raptors beat the Orlando Magic in Game 5, I had some thoughts, and I've added to those thoughts. And just briefly, who to play and how to win. When it comes to the bench in general, I got a couple of things to say because the bench has been the weak spot. The starters, the Raptors starting lineup usually does a great job, sometimes gets up by 10, 20, 30 points, and then the bench comes in, and then that hard-earned and hard-fought with great defense and great offense lead that the starters got the Raptors is thrown away by the bench. And they're up by 10, 20, 30 points, and then the bench comes on. Instead of maintaining that lead or adding to it, or even just losing it just a bit, that huge lead can drop by 50%. So you're up by 20, 30. Now you're only up by 5, 10, and the starter's got to be like, okay, we worked our asses off to kick these guys' asses. We just want a little break. We want the bench to come in, just kind of hold the fort just for a few minutes, not play starters minutes, but just for a few minutes, just 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Just, give us a break so that we can, rest a bit, drink some water. Here's some strategies, deal with some adjustments. Just go out there and try not to, open any holes in the ship so we sink, so that we got to get in there with a bunch of buckets and toss all this water out and patch them all back up, right? So generally, when it comes to the bench, I know the Raptors are a great transition team. They're a great transition NBA team, especially with guys like Pascal Siakam, out on the break, catching, passes from Lowry and Gasol and others, and just a fast, athletic team. And so transition buckets are very important to the Raptors as a whole. But when it comes to the Raptors bench, my advice to Nick Nurse and his coaching staff and the team is play slower. Play slower. Eat the clock. 24-second shot clock, 14 seconds off offensive rebounds if you miss in the half court. Play slower. Play to the end of the clock. Work, more, throw it into the post to Ibaka. Throw it back out to the guard. Throw it into the post to Ibaka. Throw it back out to Van Vliet or one of the guards. Play slow. Why? Fewer possessions. Fewer possessions means fewer chances for you to score, but also fewer chances for them to score. If you play typically transition, you may get a lot more opportunities, but if you miss those opportunities and they've got a good bench or they leave their starters in to play against the Raptors bench, then they'll just run up, then they'll score, and that's how we lose leads. So my advice to the bench is play slower, play more of a half-court game, and make it clear that, the starters did a great job. We're just not going to screw that up. Of course, they'd love to play faster. They'd love to get more stats. A lot of these guys are role players. Some of them are playing for bigger contracts or more recognition. And, if the difference between scoring 5 points and 10 points a game could be $5 and $10 million a year in the NBA. So all that is there. But if the coaching staff says play slower, limit your mistakes, limit the number of possessions both teams have when the bench is on the floor, then I think we'll be much more successful because we may not add to the lead as much, but we probably won't lose the lead as much. And that's what we're trying to limit, since this is the bench we have here in the 2019 playoffs, and they haven't quite gelled the way they did last year when now starter and potentially future all-star and possible future superstar Pascal Siakam was there. That's why the 2018 playoffs bench was so huge, is because guys like Pascal were there and they had really good chemistry. Whereas this year, the bench, they're changing lineups, whatever it is, doesn't matter. We're here now, play slower. So that's the first point. The second point I'll make on the Raptors when it comes to the bench is if you're going to go deeper into the bench, if you're going to go past Ibaka, Van Vliet, and Norman Powell, who've all been playing very well in these playoffs, if you're going to go deeper than that, then definitely play Jody Meeks. Now, OG Anunoby had an appendectomy recently, so if he's back, he's going to be in the mix as well. But definitely play Jody Meeks. Jody Meeks is a veteran. And when I see Jody Meeks out there, a lot of times I don't notice him. But that means I don't notice him making mistakes. And so that's what I really like about Jody Meeks, is he doesn't make mistakes. His spacing is good, his passing is good, his defense is good. He's not just a shooter, he's known as a shooter, so his shooting is good, but he's not there to take a lot of shots. He's just there to be part of a functional bench offense that doesn't screw up. You got the open shot, take it. You got a pass to facilitate an open shot, make the pass. You got to play some D, play some D. I don't see him making a lot of mistakes, and I see some random really smart plays from him. Not just shots from three or shots from the outside, but great cuts to the basket as a veteran who's seen all this before. And he's like a he's like a less dynamic version of Norman Powell in a lot of ways. He's not going to score as much. He's not as athletic. Norman Powell is kind of like reminds me a bit of Richard Jefferson back in the day. Richard Jefferson, all-purpose athlete, wasn't a superstar or an all-star, but was the kind of guy that, was strong, physical, looked like he could one day be an all-star because he had the physical gifts for it, but may not make it there. But that type of all-purpose offensive and defensive player. So that's Norman Powell. Jody Meeks is kind of a lesser version of that, but as a veteran, he's very disciplined and doesn't make that many mistakes. So if you're going to go deeper into your bench than Ibaka, Van Vliet, and Powell, and possibly OG, then the guy I'd pick to play is Jody Meeks. And so finally, when it comes to their approach to the Philadelphia 76ers, you're dealing with a young team with chemistry issues and some volatile and combustible personalities. There's Joel Embiid. It's his team. He's the crown jewel of the Sixers. Does Ben Simmons like that? Do he and Ben Simmons really like each other? Or does Ben Simmons go, you know what? If I had my own team that was built around me, I'd be Giannis frickin' Antetokounmpo, right? Or I'd be like a 6'10" version of Russell Westbrook, even if I can't shoot, and I'll be facilitating, passing, triple doubling, flying to the bucket. And at my age, now that Russell's 30 and Ben Simmons is like 22, I could be way more dynamic. Or like Giannis Antetokounmpo, put 4 shooters around me, clear the paint, and I'm going to drive and score, or I'm going to get it to somebody else who can. So there's chemistry issues there with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And then you've got chemistry issues with Jimmy Butler, who can be a real dick at times. If you don't believe me, go check out his YouTube channel. I haven't watched all of his stuff, but I saw a couple of things. I'm like, wow, you can be a real dick. Just to normal people, just as part of your personality. You can be a real dick. And something popped up in my YouTube feed and my phone. I was like, I'll check this out. Jimmy Butler, what the hell? You're a real dick. He was on vacation somewhere, and he got his vacation butler to do a bunch of exercise stuff. And it wasn't like he was a celebrity, rich celebrity, millionaire, responsible adult, encouraging him and having a good laugh with that person. He was trying to have a laugh at his expense like a bully. And after Jimmy Butler flamed out in Chicago and flamed out and torched the Minnesota Timberwolves franchise when he left, and has had some issues when it comes to the Sixers locker room where they all want to play nice with each other because they have the talent to potentially make the NBA Finals and win a championship. There is still the idea that, once we can stop playing nice with Jimmy and he looks at other free agent opportunities out there and he might leave the Sixers, we can all relax and not have to deal with that asshole anymore. Right? And he talks too loud and talks too much and so on. So he's supposedly being on his best behavior in Philadelphia so far. But if that's his best behavior before he's offered a potential 5-year, $190 million contract by the Sixers, or a 4-year, $150 million contract or $140 million contract by another team, then once he gets that, will he still be on his best behavior? Who the hell knows, right? So you got Embiid and Simmons with some chemistry issues. You got Jimmy Butler, who can definitely be a dick, and when he's not a dick, and when you're all trying to play nice with each other, you never know if he's really a dick, just trying not to be a dick for now, who could definitely be a dick anytime, in the near future. That's an option. And then you've got Tobias Harris, a guy who's a veteran role player. He's been on like 5-6 teams in the last 7 years, and he's just a guy who's been incrementally getting better, but you never knew if he could actually get to the sort of all-star caliber level or max contract player level. And the Clippers had a chance to keep him, and they made him an offer that was a lot less than the max. And then when he didn't take that offer, they said, you know what? We're going to probably have to offer you the max at the end of this season. And we've got Jerry West and Lawrence Frank and Doc Rivers, and we've got a great owner in Steve Ballmer, one of the richest men in the world, who's paid for the Clippers front office to have dozens and dozens of people looking into everything, the smartest people in the world, the best paid people in the basketball world, or at least many of them. And you've got Jerry West, the architect of dynasties and championships with the Los Angeles Lakers, and one of the main architects of a dynasty with the Golden State Warriors. And he, as being one of the key advisors to the LA Clippers, said, nah, don't keep Tobias Harris. Let's trade him. We can get something good for him while everybody's got good feelings about him. So they traded him to the Sixers for some first-round picks and great young prospects and so on. So Tobias Harris is another figure who's got a lot to play for in this postseason, because if he plays really well, he'll get a contract that could pay him $30 to $40 million a year. If he just plays kind of well, he could get a contract that'll pay $20, $25 million a year. So he could leave tens of millions of dollars on the table. So with him being a potential free agent, Jimmy Butler being a potential free agent, Joel Embiid locked up under contract but with some health issues with his bad knee, Ben Simmons thinking, I could play here in Philadelphia and we could make it work, or I could have nobody else in the paint, like a giant 7'3", 300-pound center, Joel Embiid, except for me and a bunch of shooters around me, and I can just go crazy with my athletic skills and ball handling and rebounding and my drives to the bucket like Giannis Antetokounmpo does in Milwaukee. Do I really want to be here long term? So there's a lot of chemistry issues on that team. There's a lot of combustibility. There's a lot of immaturity on that team. And when it comes to the Raptors, with their veteran leadership, Kawhi, Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, and others on the team, who've got some experience, Pascal Siakam, an emerging star, I would recommend they take the Damian Lillard approach, where the Portland Trailblazers just sent the Oklahoma City Thunder home with a 4-1 first-round sweep. And that is the Oklahoma City Thunder remind me in some chemistry and combustibility ways of the Philadelphia 76ers. Hot-headed young point guard, and in Russell Westbrook. You've got a secondary star in Paul George, who was a bit hurt for the series. And they had some potential chemistry issues. They have the highest payroll in the NBA. They're paying the most luxury tax, and yet they can't construct a team that can get out of the first round for whatever reason. You can find excuses. Russell Westbrook is just on the wrong side of 30 for an athletic player that can't shoot, so his game is arguably in decline, and there's a lot of pressure on them. And with that pressure, the Oklahoma City Thunder got too high every time they made a big shot, and too low every time they got in a funk, and too high and too low and too high and too low, and they were sort of embarrassed because, just like anybody else, it's like, yeah, I'm the best. I don't feel so bad. I'm not the best anymore. Yeah, I'm the best. Oh, I don't feel so good. I'm not the best anymore. That's embarrassing to sort of act like that. Whereas what Damian Lillard had the Portland Trailblazers doing is level-headed, cold as ice, Dame time, ice in his veins guy. He said, we're not talking to them. If nobody's wearing a black and gray jersey, nobody's wearing a Portland jersey towards the end of the series, he said, we're not talking to them at all. They can talk all they want. They can chirp. They can yell and scream and high five and fist bump. We want to win 4 out of 7 games, finish this series, and then there'll be nothing for them to talk about. And if we feel like talking, hey, we got something to talk about. If we don't, let that speak for itself. And so when it comes to the Raptors and their issues, we also have impending free agents with the Toronto Raptors like Kawhi Leonard and so on. And if he doesn't sign, Masai Ujiri, the president of the Raptors, and general manager Bobby Webster might just blow up the team, trade all the veterans, and start a full-on rebuild centered around Pascal Siakam and other young talent. It's all on the table, but it's not something that's often discussed. And so it's all been kept in-house. There's not a lot of leaks that people are unhappy. There's not a lot of leaks that this and that is happening. There's speculation from the outside, but there hasn't been a lot of internal speculation on the Raptors. There hasn't been a lot of, team meetings gone bad or this person's not happy. Everything is kept in-house, and it generally seems like a good group of guys. Part big softy, part stone cold killers. And so that's what I recommend for the Raptors in the second round against the Sixers is be cool, have balls, get this done. And the more you do that with people that are volatile and combustible, it's like, if you're teased, if you go along with the teasing and it looks like it affects you, then you're likely to be teased more. But if you're like, I don't care at all. If you have the energy for that to waste time on me, it's your life. I don't care about the attention, but if you got nothing better to do, party on. It doesn't affect me. That drives the person teasing you crazy. And so when it comes to the Sixers, I think that there's going to be a lot of, we got to get ourselves hyped up. It's the playoffs. Yeah, we got to support each other. We got to act like we're bonding. We got to act almost fake in a way to sort of affect that. Whereas the Raptors can just, boom, be cool, have balls, get the job done. Yeah, you can have some occasional celebrations here and there. You're not robots. But it's more, good pass, shouting that out. Dunk. Yeah, gone. Foul. What? That should have been a foul. All right, I'm glad I let you know that, ref, but let's not make this a big thing. Off to the next play. I got to play some defense. If I didn't get the call on that shot and I didn't make that shot, boom. You're just more businesslike. And frankly, I think the Raptors lost game 1 against the Orlando Magic because they were a bunch of nice guys and because Nick Nurse came out in an awful plaid suit, awful brown and yellow plaid suit, which a friend of his got him in fairness, and inside the lining of the suit it had all the logos of previous teams that he'd coached. But it was just a horrible, ugly suit, made him look like a clown or a used car salesman or Ron Burgundy. So from the top, it was kind of a silly, lighthearted, yeah, NBA playoffs are so much fun approach and that type of fun vibe, right? As opposed to, nope, this is serious, this is crazy. Guys like Dwayne Wade have talked about, people think the playoffs is fun. No, it's fun for the fans. For us, it's horrible. Hard to sleep, hard to think, always worried about this, always focused on that. Wish you could have done something better last game. Hope you do it better next game. It's work. It's the hardest work you'll do in this season. And so, Nick Nurse coming out in that awful plaid suit, the team, being a relatively new team together with, Kyle Lowry leading, didn't have a great game from a scoring perspective, had a good plus minus, but you got to score more than 0 points. You can't be an all-star. You got to get 10 points, fine. 10 points is fine. You helped people who would normally score 10 points score 15 or 20. So good job, Kyle. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. But you got to score more than 0, right? So he wasn't having a good game, so he couldn't be his usual vocal leader. And it's a team of nice guys. So you can have people that are relatively young, Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, Pascal Siakam, say, come on, guys, man up or piss off. We got to win this goddamn. It's game 1. It's in our own building. Screw this. Let's go. And so the young guys couldn't do it. And the leaders didn't do it, starting with the coach, Nick Nurse, and his awful suit and his, looked like a clown for game 1. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. And the leaders of the Raptors, and Kyle Lowry having an off game, especially from a scoring perspective, although he still does a ton of great things as an all-around basketball player. He's a guy you'd love to have in your team because if he doesn't do a lot of scoring, he is in the right place to bump that guy out of the way casually so you can score, so you get 25 points. How'd you do that? Well, Kyle Lowry, his great big ass, was in the way of a bunch of people that were trying to stop you. So he does a lot of great things. I'm not saying he has to be a top scorer for the Raptors, but you can't have 0 points, right? So, and he knows that, right? He knows that. Anyway, so the point is that's why they lost game 1, because they didn't take it seriously enough from the top down. And so in this round against the Sixers, I expect Nick Nurse to be a dark suited killer leading killers, dark blue suits, dark gray suits, dark black suits, dark suited killer leading killers, taking his folksy Iowan kind of way and just nope. This series, I'm not going to joke around with you as much, Jonesy. This is all about taking this really serious. There's a lot of fun to be had out there for people watching the playoffs, and I hope they do. But we got to take this real serious. We'll celebrate a bit after the game, and then we'll get on to the next game. And until we win a championship, that's just the way it's going to be. And so, that type of approach, being extra cool around this combustible team with a couple of young kids leading it and a couple of potential free agents in Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris is, I think, the way to go. So anyway, there's a bit on who to play and how to win. Go Raps, and good luck, and hopefully everybody out there is enjoying the NBA playoffs. Otherwise, BK Black Krishna from manforwars.com. Feel free to comment, subscribe, or get in touch as you'd like. You can also donate to the Man for Wars efforts. You can see the links below. Otherwise, I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.